Hi guys, it's Heather with Running with Scissors. Today we are working on box number 28, your February 2023 box. And let's get started. Now you saw in the opening what we're making. And inside our box, as always, we have our instructions. And look, this time around, I have the instructions ready ahead of time. And we have an envelope that says scrapbook paper on it. And you can see it has a little piece sticking out the end there. That's because the carrot did not fit in the envelope all the way, but that's okay. And don't worry if that's bent at all. We're not gonna worry about that. Still perfectly usable. And then we have all of our supplies. We have a bag of glue and sponges, paintbrush, and a filing board, an emery board. Of course, we have all of our wood pieces. And then we have some paints. You'll have 2 pods of paint, a pot of Mod Podge, and then 2 little teeny tiny pods of paint. All right, as always, you can use your box to work on, but I'm just gonna set mine aside. Now you're gonna want to have a cup of water handy, paper towel, some scissors, and of course, baby wipes. Not sure you're going to need any or all of those, but have that handy just in case. You will need your water and your napkin for sure. Okay, we are going to get started. My bunny, you can see, is lifted up off the table a little bit. It's a little warm in the studio right now because it's so cold outside. So he is feeling that the heat is warping the wood a little bit. He'll go back down when the temperature gets back to normal. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to use our yellow sponge. We're going to use our yellow sponge and we're going to paint the body of the chicken and we're going to paint the body of the bunny. Okay, so we're going to do both of those. Paint the body of the chicken and the body of the bunny. Now the body of the bunny is going to be painted this gray color. You have acrylic paints at home and you want to paint your bunny a little something different, go ahead and paint your bunny a little something different. That is totally up to you. There's no stencil in this project, so you don't have to worry about needing a really thick paint. So you can go ahead and paint your bunny however you want to paint him. Now I'm going to paint mine gray, and I'm just going to paint him all gray. And I'm not going to worry about any other color on him, but you could always paint him white, you can paint him black, you can paint him brown, you can paint him pink, you can paint him whatever color you want to paint him. That's up to you. Now you could add just a little tiny bit of black in here as well in some areas to give it a little bit of a variated color if you would like. Now your black paint you are only going to use for shading and for your eyes. So go ahead if you want to put a little bit of black in him. It takes very, very little black, so keep that in mind. I can show you when we're done here how you could do that. Let me get this guy painted and then I will show you what I'm talking about. Now you don't have to paint the bottom of the carrot or the carrot part at all. Just bring your paint down low enough that it gets the bunny portion done, which is right about there, because that carrot line there, you can see where that line's gonna fall. That's gonna be your carrot, and your carrot sits on top, so just like that. All right, so this has gotta dry a little bit. We're gonna put a second coat on it, but while we wait for that to dry, I'm gonna move into my chick here, get my chick base first coat painted, and for my chicken, I'm going to use this plantain colored paint. That's the plantain colored paint. That's yellowish. You don't have to worry about the hair on your chicken because the hair is going to be a piece of scrapbook paper. But now we do have to make sure that we go all the way down on the chicken to the bottom, okay? All the way to the bottom on the chicken, because not all of the bottom will be covered by the rest of his pieces. So we want to make sure that we get that all covered. Now it will need 2 coats, but it's going to dry fairly quickly. So we're just going to push him to the side for a second while we put another coat on our bunny, which is dry already. All right, so for our bunny, we're gonna put that second coat on real quick. And then I will show you how you can add a little bit of darker color in. Because we have black, we can add a little bit of darker color. Now you can do the same thing with white if you have some white paint left over from another project. It will take a little bit more white than it takes of black. You will notice I paint right over the eyes there. It's okay, we can see those lines perfectly fine through our dry paint, so we know where our eyes go. All right, so if you want to put a little bit of streaky color in here, just go ahead and open your little tiny black paint pod. And it will be a little bit more difficult to get your sponge in there, but just take the corner of your sponge. It's not going to take very much paint. And you can take that little tiny bit of paint and come down in your bunny here. And see, you can just add some little streaks of black in there if you want to. It takes very, very little. Black goes a long way. And don't worry if you get a big glob like that, because you just take that same sponge and you're just gonna work it in. Just like that. Now you don't have to do the streaks. That's totally up to you. I just thought I'd show you how you can do that. I don't have it written in the instructions. I don't think I did it to the original that's in the sample picture that in the beginning there. Something that I don't typically do is make 2 of these. Usually the sample picture that you see in the beginning is the one that we're actually working on during the tutorial. But for this one, we made a first timer. We made one just to see how we were gonna like it and if we could make it, if it was gonna be feasible for a subscription box. So we'll have 2 of these guys around. All right, so that's what you can do if you want to add a little bit of streaky color into your bunny. All right, we're going to let this guy dry, and while we let him dry, we're gonna put that second coat on our chicken. So we're gonna put the second coat of plantain on our chicken. And you can see how those eyes are perfectly able to be seen through the paint. So it doesn't matter that you go right over top of them. We're gonna set that guy aside and let him dry. And while he's drying, we are going to paint our bunny feet. Same thing with the bunny feet. If you want to add some of the black streakies in the bunny feet, you can. If you want to paint your bunny feet a different color, go ahead and do that. These will need 2 coats as well. I'm just holding them in my hand. They're small. They'll move around the table pretty easily, so it's just as easy to hold them in my hand. Once again, don't worry about covering those lines. Those lines are going to tell you where to put the scrapbook pieces of paper. 2 coats on these. All right, now while we wait for all those pieces to dry, we are going to paint our noses. So we have to paint our bunny nose and our chicken nose. Oh, looks like I got myself 2 noses, don't know why. All right, so the bigger nose is the bunny nose, the smaller nose is the chicken nose. The bunny nose I'm gonna paint pink, and I'm just gonna use my brush in this little paint pod. You have plenty of paint here. You're gonna want 2 coats. Just put 1 coat on first and let it dry. And for video's sake, to keep moving, I am going to go ahead and wash my brush out and start the other one. Start the other nose. So I'm just washing my brush in my water and wiping it off on my paper towel. My chicken nose, I'm gonna paint orange. Once again, those will need 2 coats. I am all done with my plantain and my gray paint, so I'm going to go ahead and close those up and get them out the way. And I'm going to put the second coat on my bunny nose. And push him aside to dry. And then my second coat on my chicken nose. And push them aside to dry. Right, you're gonna wanna make sure your brush is cleaned out really well and dried really well before you use it for your scrapbook paper and your Mod Podge, okay? So just rinse that brush out really well, dry it, and set it to the side till we get ready to do that. Right now, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna put the shadowing around our chicken and our bunny. And to do that, we are going to use one of the half wedges, and on the chicken, we're gonna use the brown paint. Right, so now I'm just gonna dip my wedge into that brown paint and scrape all the excess off. Just scrape it off on the pot itself, and then pounce it off on your pizza box or your table cover. You don't want this sponge very wet at all. You just want a tiny little bit on that. And I'm gonna take this and I'm just gonna grab the very edge of the chicken, of the wood template, and I'm gonna pull the sponge out away from it. So I'm just gonna set it on the edge and pull. Now it doesn't look like I'm doing much, but I promise you that it makes a huge bit of difference. Okay, so let's see. I want you to try and see that. See that? Little bit of shading there with that brown. Makes a big difference when it's all done. So we are just gonna continue to do that all the way around. And it just takes a little bit, and it's just a real light touch, okay? If you're not getting enough on there, get a little bit more paint on your sponge. And if you get too much paint right away, you can just use a baby wipe to wipe it off. And then I'm gonna come up here around this part as well. And I don't really need to worry too much about, let's set this guy down for a second. I don't need to worry about getting the brown paint up there because remember, we're gonna cover that with some scrapbook paper. So I don't care if I get it up there. I just wanna make sure that I get a little bit in there. We're gonna come back and we're gonna do the side as well. If you start running out of paint, meaning like you're not seeing any of the brown paint get up on the edges, just grab yourself a little bit more. Now, you do not have to do this. It is totally optional. It does, I feel like it brings out the color of the chicken a little bit more. I love to give some shading to my projects, but you absolutely do not have to do it. Okay, so that's the chicken. We're gonna set the chicken aside, and now we're gonna use the other wedge. And we're gonna use our black paint. Now you could still use the brown wedge because the black would cover that up, but you can use a clean one as well. And the same thing, we're just gonna have a little bit of black on our sponge, and very, very lightly, we're gonna grab just the edge and pull down and off. And we're gonna go all the way around. And we're gonna do that to both feet. And we're gonna do it to the bunny body as well. And bringing back our bunny body. Now for the bunny body, I'm going to show you a little bit different technique. Now you can still do the same thing, but I want to be able to show you a couple different ways you can do this. So still working with the same black sponge, I'm just going to, instead of taking the edge and pulling down and off, I'm just going to actually run my sponge along the edge, just like that. And can you see that, what that did? All right, same thing here. I'm just going to run it across along the edge. All right, I'm going to do the same thing to his body. I might have to have just a little bit more paint. Now, if you don't feel like you're getting enough with running it along the edges like this, go ahead and just do that same technique that you learned with the chicken. All right. But either one will work. And they should give you about the same results. You might get a little bit better by grabbing the edge and pulling off, but once you learn how to do it, you'll be able to use both techniques. All right, so that's all I'm gonna do with my bunny body there. And now we are going to start using the scrapbook paper. It doesn't matter what order you do this in, it's totally up to you. At this point, you are done with your paint. However, I will show you a little technique that you can use on the scrapbook pieces too with the shading. So don't toss your sponges quite yet. You want to hold on to them for another few minutes. Okay, we're going to open our Mod Podge and we're going to open our scrapbook pieces. Be very careful when you open this envelope. There are lots of small pieces in here. These were all counted twice to make sure that you guys got the number of pieces that you needed. So be very careful when you pull them out, mostly with the little paws, okay? Make sure that there's no little teeny pieces hidden in the corner of your envelope. All right, I've got my carrot in front of me, so I'm gonna start with my carrot. And this is my carrot scrapbook paper. Now your paper might not match mine. Everybody might have gotten, not everybody, but we probably used about 4 different papers. Okay, so we're gonna put some Mod Podge on our brush, and we're gonna put the Mod Podge on the wood piece, okay? We want it on the wood piece, not on the paper, because on the paper it saturates it too quickly. It will make your paper curl, and then it will make your paper wrinkle. So we're just gonna get it put on our wood piece, so we're making sure that we get it all covered very well. You can see right now, can you see that without the glare? I have a bad glare in here, but I'm not sure it translates to camera. You can see how much Mod Podge I have on that. I have quite a bit. When we're all said and done here, I don't want that much, but I want it to stay wet while I get it covered. So I put it on heavy, and then I come in with my brush and I quickly take it off. So I just have a thin coat. I don't want lines. I don't want lines of Mod Podge because that creates wet paper and then it makes the paper wrinkle. I don't want wrinkled paper. There's nothing I hate worse. Okay, so we've got a thin layer of Mod Podge on our wood piece. We're gonna lay our paper on and position it where it goes. And remember, if you had a crease down there, just uncrease it and push it down. Now, we are going to keep smoothing this out for about a minute. And we're gonna make sure that we're running our fingers all the way, all over everything, right to the edges. Now, the reason we're doing this is we want that Mod Podge to set up without the paper wrinkling, okay? So, in case you did have any little bubbles of Mod Podge underneath there, you are now smoothing them out and getting that to dry while you're smoothing your paper flat. All right. So that's my first piece. All right, that's my first piece. And now we are going to repeat this process with all of the pieces that have scrapbook paper with them. All right, I'm gonna, on this piece here, this is the piece that gets the egg. Okay, just the egg. The feet, the individual feet, get the individual pieces of scrapbook paper, and there is a left and a right to your papers, so make sure that you have the right one on the right foot. Okay, and then this piece goes on top of this guy here, and you've got a piece that looks something like this that goes on this piece of the carrot. Okay. Whoops, see, I have two there. Whoops, a daisy. This piece goes on this. All right. And of course, these guys go on the paws. Don't worry if the shapes don't match exactly. I realized after I was all done, some of my paw prints are ovaled and some of them are more round. Well, I did make sure that you had ovals and rounds. I just made sure everybody got 6. But I also realized that I might have used an oval on a round on the sample and it didn't make a difference. So there's that. All right, and then the bunny ears go on the bunny ears, but there is a left and right to these as well. So make sure that you have them in the right place, and you'll be able to tell because it will look backwards if you don't. So that's how those go. You can see the angle there. That's how those go. All right, I'm gonna shut my mouth and I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna Mod Podge all of this, and I will speed the video up so you don't have to watch all of it, but so you can look back and reference it if you need to. But we are gonna repeat the same process we did with the carrot through all of these pieces, and then we'll come back and we'll do the next step. All right, here we go. Okay, so now that we're to the feet and to the bunny ears, we're gonna do these just a little tiny bit differently. On this guy, because I don't want you to get Mod Podge where it doesn't need to be on these pieces, I want you to go ahead and put it on the paper. I want you to put it on the paper in a very, very thin coat, and I want you to work very quickly because you can see that the paper is going to curl almost immediately. So we're gonna work very rapidly when we are doing the bunny feet and the bunny ears, okay? But same method, we're still going to run our fingers over top of that paw print or that paper for a few seconds there till we know it's adhered. Same thing with each one of these little guys. Take care not to get Mod Podge on your project. I did forget to do the carrot top, so we're gonna do that real quick. That is, the glue goes, the Mod Podge goes right on the wood piece on this guy. Alright, and now our bunny ears. Our bunny ears are the last piece there that we have to do on the paper. So we're going to put that Mod Podge right on the paper. Thin coat. Make sure you get the whole thing. And then we're going to position that in the ear and smooth it down. And the same thing with this one. Okay, and we're done with this. We're gonna put that away. And now we're gonna rinse out our brush. And we're gonna use our brush one more time here. This time we're gonna use the black paint. And we're gonna use the wrong end of our brush. So not the bristle end, but the stick end. And we're gonna get some black paint on the end of our brush here. And we're going to just dot those eyes and fill them in by just rotating our brush in a circle. Now these will take a second to dry because they got pretty thick paint on them, you know. So just like that, we'll set that aside. And we're gonna do the same thing with the chicken. And just like that with the chicken. And then just clean your brush off and put your paint away. All right, so we're gonna let those eyes sit up on those guys, but while that sits up, I'm gonna take you back to your emery board and your scrapbook pieces, okay? So if you want to, and if you need to, you can take your emery board and you can file the edges of your shapes. Now this one, I slid my paper up just slightly on purpose, and I didn't tell you at the time I was doing it because I wanted to show you why later. So you see how my paper hangs off just a tiny little bit? We don't want to take a knife and cut that, but we can take an emery board or a nail file, and all you're gonna do is pull down on it against the edge of the wood, and see how it cuts that paper off just right? I don't know where the little piece, here it is. See that little tiny bit there that it took off? So you could do that whole thing if your paper went off the edges just a little, or you can also do this to distress the edges of your scrapbook paper. So distressing kind of, it bears the white core of the paper. All right, so it just kind of like takes maybe like the top layer off or the top print off, and it kind of just shows like the white core of the paper. All right, if you want that look. You don't have to have that look. All right, so that's what you can do if you got your paper off just a little bit. You can file it down like that, or you can file it to distress your paper. Now I'm going to show you kind of what it does if you distress it. Okay, and you see how that white is showing there? I know, I'm sorry, my gross painted fingers. But you see how it's like kind of turned white. It's taken off the printed part of the paper. Let's see if I can show you a little bit better. See? All right, so what you can do with that is you can come back to your sponge that you use for shading, making sure that you have very little paint on it, and you can run that along the edges of, well, you're actually going to need a little bit more paint than that, Heather. You can run that along the edges of your scrapbook paper to give them a little bit of a distressed look and a little bit of shading. So I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm going to do a little bit so you can see what it will look like. It looks kind of neat. You see that? Let's see. It looks cool, huh? So that's something else you can do, and you can do that to all of the pieces or just a few of the pieces. I'm just gonna finish this carrot because I started it. And so you'll be able to see what it looks like if you do them. All right, so this is what that carrot looks like done. Okay, now the same thing with all your other pieces. If you went over anywhere, just go ahead with your nail file and file all those off. And if you want to distress the pieces, go ahead and distress them. And then if you want to shade the pieces, go ahead and shade them. All right, next we're going to glue all of our pieces together. So once you have all of your filing and your shading done, you're going to just start gluing. So stay tuned for that. Okay, we are going to glue our pieces together. Now, if your eyes are not yet dry, be very careful, or blast them with a hairdryer to dry them, or just give them another minute because you don't want to smear those, okay? Mine are still wet. I'm just going to try my best not to smear them. All right, we're going to tap our super glue, and we're going to just work one piece at a time to get these done and glued together. First, we're going to run a line of glue onto our carrots. Remember to stay away from the edge there, and if you get too much, just dab it off on your pizza box. And remember that pressure activates super glue. Now we want to make sure these bottoms are lined up really well on the carrot, because your bunny will stand up by itself from the thickness, the triple thickness here that we're putting on. But you have to make sure that it's lined up very well. Now the worst that's going to happen is that you're going to have to prop it up against something. And so it's not the end of the world. All right, remember, pressure activates super glue. So there you go. And we're going to put the carrot top on. We're going to glue his nose on. And then we're going to glue his feet on. I'm going to dry position them first so I know where I want them. I don't know that there's really a right or a left to them, so you use your judgment on what you like. And once again, make sure that these are glued just to the bottom edge of the carrot. And you can go as far left or right as you want with your feet. They don't have to be, you can be way out here if you want them to be way out there. They are just your bunny's feet. All right, there is my bunny. That's the bunny completed. We're just gonna set him aside so we can work on the chicken. We're gonna bring the chicken forward. And we are going to glue this guy on first. Making sure that they are lined up to the bottom of the chicken body. And press down. And then I'm going to take each one of the feet individually and glue them on. Now remember, there is a left and a right, so make sure you have the left and the right. And there are your bunny and your chick for your sub box. How cute. Now mine probably won't stand because it's so warped. Oh, well, surprisingly it does. So that's how it should stand up on its own. Am I gonna get lucky with both? No, I didn't think so. All right, but anyway, you see it, that's how it's supposed to be, but I can just prop them up against something, lean them against something. All right, hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you enjoyed this project. And it looks like on the camera that my feet and my bunny or my chick are the same color, but they're not. This is definitely yellow and these are orange. I don't know. I hope it doesn't look that way to you guys. But for me, I watch on a monitor overhead as I videotape this, and it looks like they're the same color, but super crazy. All right, you guys. Anyway, hope you had fun and hope you enjoy these. If you love it, make sure you tell your friends about us. We appreciate you guys so much. If you have any questions and you need any help with this, go ahead and just message us or text us and let us know, and we'll do our best to help you out. All right. Thanks again, you guys.